behind the wheel of the Dodge Charger GT, and this vehicle competes in an interesting class to say the very least, the full-size sedan class, which is a class that's sadly going obsolete. It includes quite a few vehicles actually, like the Maxima, the Buick LaCrosse, the Toyota Avalon, and the Chrysler 300C, and well, with sedan sales in general being low, full-size sedans are not only thirstier on fuel, they're also more expensive, and well, when it comes down to it, people just prefer the SUV equivalent, which is quite sad because, well, I'm quite an advocate for sedans. But anyway, coming back to the Charger GT itself, this is itself quite a unique sedan, and even though this vehicle hasn't been redesigned in over a decade, Dodge still manages to achieve somewhat successful sales numbers with this, and I can see why. It really has that muscle car feel going for it. And while other sedans in this class, like the Maxima, who, well, are more towards the luxurious side of things, the Charger here is brute force and nothing else. On the outside, it's really imposing to look at. It has a wide stance, it's long, and for this GT trim, this actually has the SRT wide body kit on it, which makes it even better looking in my opinion. The base Charger, I will be honest, is starting to look quite dated in my opinion, but throw on the SRT body kit and it really refreshes the looks in my opinion. Under the hood, we're running the Pentastar engine, which is actually a really potent and, in my opinion, an underrated powertrain. Everyone loves to rave on about the Hellcats and the Scat Packs with their large V8s, which are brilliant, don't get me wrong, but this engine is really underrated in my opinion and deserves more love. It produces 300 horsepower and right around 270 pound-feet of torque, which is enough to get this Charger GT from 0 to 100 kilometers in right around 7.5 seconds. Transmission-wise, we have the 8-speed TorqueFlite transmission, or as Stellantis likes to call it, the TorqueFlite. It is really a 8-speed torque converter automatic transmission, but it's actually quite a nice transmission. What I like about Dodge doing with this thing is they keep updating the Charger over the years. So even though this chassis is really quite dated, still using the old Mercedes chassis from what I know, Dodge kind of throws little updates at it once in a while, which really keeps this thing up to date. In terms of weight, this thing weighs right above 4,000 pounds, but when you consider this thing to be a full-size sedan, it falls right in line with vehicles like the Chrysler 300C and Maxima. Steering on the Dodge Charger is actually really quite nice in my opinion. It is electrically assisted, but they've put some nice weight into it, so when you're actually going around a corner, even though this thing is quite large, it doesn't give you that boat anchor feel. It goes into a corner quite nicely, even though this thing is quite heavy, but obviously there are limits to that. It's not going to handle quite like a Ferrari F12 or something, but the steering feel is really quite nice. So let's talk about the interior of the Charger for just a second here. These seats, I gotta start off with these seats. These seats are really comfortable. I mean, you can see how big and wide the seats are, and holding my quite slim body structure, not complaining, but I am quite a slim person, if I'm being quite honest, and even myself, they hold me in quite well, and more importantly, if you're a larger person, these will hold you in perfectly, and they're also really comfortable for longer journeys as well. Talk about the interior design, it is starting to look a bit dated, and it is somewhere where I will have to deduct some points for this Charger, not only because of the somewhat ancient design now, but also because the interior just isn't up to par. I mean, this vehicle is not cheap by any stretch of the imagination. This vehicle, brand new, was right over $40,000 for this GT trim. Tack on all-wheel drive and a few other options, and you were close to $50,000. There are quite a few panel gap issues around. Even though the door panels and dashboard have soft touch materials quite around, the soft touch material just looks old, it looks dried up. I'm not really a big fan of it. So yeah, I will have to deduct some points, unfortunately, for the Charger there. But other than that, I love everything about this vehicle. This GT trim is riding on 20-inch wheels with quite low profile tires, and while when you're going over a bump, it really just soaks everything up quite nicely in my opinion. If you go for a smaller wheel setup, it will definitely be more comfortable, but I have no complaints with this. And in my opinion, the ride is just, it's very comfortable actually. Talk about some exhaust though, even though this thing only has 300 horsepower, on paper that doesn't sound like much, but when you actually put your foot into this thing, I mean, this thing takes off. We obviously have no turbochargers here, only naturally aspiration, So the acceleration is almost instantaneous. This transmission is quick to shift down, and when it does, I mean, this thing just rockets over there. I mean, I'm not even putting 50% of acceleration into this thing, and this thing just wants to just run out from right under me. It really is quite impressive. And like I said, going back to my statement about this motor being underrated, it really is, and you definitely have to get into this thing and try it out for yourself. So let's come to a conclusion about what we think about the Dodge Charger. In terms of looks, I love it. It's imposing, it's aggressive, it looks great, it looks unique. I love the DRLs in the front. If you're a muscle car enthusiast, you will love the retro looks and the speed lines on the side, which are just a nice retro touch, harkening back to the original Chargers of the 1970s. The powertrain, I love it. I love this Pentastar engine. Even though you can call it dated, you can call it old, you can say it's not exactly the best on fuel, but that's not exactly what it's meant for. It's powerful, it sounds great, and it's actually quite reliable from what owners have been reporting. Interior, like I said, is kind of a drawback for the Charger. Not that it's lacking too much. I mean, you have a nice leather-wrapped steering wheel. It's thick, it feels nice in your hands. And I also love these paddle shifters that's mounted behind. I love the analog gauges in here. They also look great in my opinion. And you have a large display in the center as well, which displays vehicle information for the most part. In the center, you have an 8.4-inch Uconnect touchscreen. I mean, Uconnect, in my opinion, is one of the best infotainment systems out there. It's one of the things they got right, and they've definitely been updating it and just refining it over the years to just improve graphics, offer Apple CarPlay and Android Auto integration, physical controls as well. Over here you have your climate controls at the bottom and radio controls. One thing I will have to say is I'm not a fan of them burying the heated seat and heated steering wheel controls inside the infotainment. I kind of wish we had physical buttons for them, but I'm glad they actually made the infotainment or climate buttons physical right at your fingertips, so you can adjust them even on the go. So yeah, that pretty much concludes my review on this Dodge Charger GT. Obviously cross-shop it between all the other competition out there, and you can draw yourself to a better conclusion that way, but I give the Dodge Charger here an excellent review. With that, thank you so very much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video.